Welcome back, guys and gals. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday afternoon. So I was doing some research the other day, and I came across this post, and this guy was talking about Captain America and all the different versions of Captain America. And it kind of got me chasing down this rabbit hole that I want to talk about today, and in what America was, what it is, and what it could be or eventually will be, depending on what version of Captain America we force it to be or see it to be. So let's jump into this, and we'll kind of see if you guys understand where I'm going with here, okay? So America is a unique power among the other world powers for one very specific reason. Most nations define themselves by either like geography or shared bloodlines or centuries of continuous ethnic history. And America is different. It was different, okay? The founding purpose of it was different. America was built on a document. It was built on a particular set of ideas, a set of explicit promises written down on paper: individual sovereignty, universal liberty, and equal protection under the law. Okay? But when a country relies on an ideological contract as its sole foundation, a lethal friction emerges that the moment the underlying economic machinery fails to deliver on that specific contract. And so today, we are living through a massive structural rupture. The gap between what America was promised to be, what it actually became, and what it is turning into right now under our feet. Okay? And that idea has never been wider than it is currently. So tonight we're going to break down the anatomy of that gap. We're stripping away the flag-waving rhetoric to look at the machine from the founding paradoxes of 1776 through the Cold War security state right into today's algorithmic corporate technocracy. And to understand how we got here, we're going to look through a very specific mirror, a pop culture mythos that spent 80 years quietly mapping the exact moral decay of the American state. And of course, we're talking about the mantle of Captain America. We'll talk about that in just a second.
The curtains rise, the lights burn bright. You're blinded now, can't see the fight. Smoke and mirrors, they lead the way. Fooling hearts night after day. Welcome to the show, it's all pretend. The smiles, the lies, the perfect end.
Alrighty. So what did America stand for? What we call the paper promise. If you look at 1776 purely through the lens of political engineering, the Declaration of Independence was a masterpiece of marketing. It challenged absolute monarchy and declared that human rights were innate by the supreme being, right? Not granted by a particular king or a lord. That was the stated ideal, but the operational code contained a catastrophic bug right out of the factory. The exact same legal framework that guaranteed life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was hard-coded to protect chattel slavery, land extraction, and wealth concentration. The men who wrote those words were deeply concerned with protecting private property, and the 18th century property included human beings and stolen land. Right? And so the baseline ideal was revolutionary on paper, but in practice it was deeply conditional. The system was never designed to be a finished document to human equity, which is why America is ever changing. It's never supposed to be just a final thought, okay? A final stand or a final thing. Okay, it's changing all the time, and that's something that has never been tried or established in human history as far as a government or a nation ever. And so it was engineered for stability, asset protection, or asset preservation, and the protection of an elite merchant class. Every single expansion of human freedom that followed, abolition, women's suffrage, labor rights, wasn't handed down by benevolent institutional design. It had to be ripped out of the system's teeth from the bottom up. Think about all of the accomplishments that we have done as a nation from the people, right? It's not that the government said, here you go, have these freedoms. 1 second. Drippy Dan. Always barking. Okay, so it's not that everything was just given to us. We had to fight tooth and nail for every right and privilege that we have here, right? And that brings us into the industrial machine. As the nation surged through the 19th and 20th century, the agrarian republic evolved into a massive, unyielding industrial engine. And as the engine grew, so did the necessity to justify its collateral damage. And we enter in pop culture. In 1941, right on the doorstep of World War II, Marvel Comics introduced a famous person that we know as Steve Rogers, Captain America. And on the surface, Steve Rogers represented the stated ideal, the New Deal coalition, moral clarity, the brave young soldier punching fascism in the face. He was the symbol of what America wanted to believe that it stood for. Not what we stood for, what we, the people, believed it stood for, okay? There is a difference. But years later, writers pulled back the curtain on that mythology with a graphic novel called Truth, Red, White, and Black. They revealed Isaiah Bradley. So before Steve Rogers ever put on the uniform, the United States government secretly tested the super soldier serum on hundreds of black soldiers. Isaiah Bradley survived the experiments, fought for his country, and was promptly erased from history, imprisoned, and left to rot by the very state that he saved. That isn't just a comic book retcon. That is the exact blueprint of how the historical system has functioned. The idea, or the ideal Steve Rogers, was paraded in front of the world to sell war bonds and to rally public morale. Meanwhile, the actual machinery, Isaiah Bradley, was built on top of state-sanctioned exploitation, silence, and structural dispositional labor. The myth required the sacrifice of vulnerability to maintain its own prestige. And so let's not shift too far away, but even though we talk bad about certain aspects of America, right, and in like every way that we've went wrong and every way that we could possibly go right, I still firmly believe that America is the greatest country ever. We have more rights and liberties and just things that are given to us, right, at birth than any other country has ever had ever, okay? So let's not take that for granted, okay? But we still need to take a step back just like everything else, and how can we make America better tomorrow? And to understand that, we have to understand where we have come from and maybe the exploitation, the hidden agendas, what the system is actually doing behind our backs to control us or to deceive us, right? We have to start waking up, all right? And so let's look at the reactionary state. when a system prioritizes power over its own stated values, it inevitably rots from the inside out. Look at what happened in the 1950s. The Cold War paranoia gripped the nation. The government didn't need a moral idea anymore. It needed compliance. Just comply, follow the rules, right? So in the comics, a man named William Burnside took up the mantle of Captain America. Driven by extreme anti-communist fear, Burnside injected himself with a flawed, unchecked serum. He didn't stand for liberty. He stood for historical nationalism, surveillance, and state self-preservation. He went completely insane, seeing enemies around every corner. And decades later, the state tried again with John Walker, U.S. agent. Walker was hyper-militarized, rigid, and completely subservient to federal orders. He didn't ask why he was fighting. He just executed state violence with absolute brutality and efficiency. So Burnside and Walker represent what America became in the late to mid 20th century, a post-9/11 security apparatus, a military-industrial complex that replaced moral philosophy with geopolitical dominance, domestic surveillance, and corporate empire building. The symbol was no longer about defending human rights. It was about enforcing power. Okay? Let's think about it. Think about it. Don't lie to ourselves, right? What kind of moral philosophy do we have as a nation right now? Collectively. We don't. We don't have anything that connects us morally, right? And think of all of the things that the government is doing to us right now. Geopolitical dominance in the world, right? Trying to stick our noses, stick our fingers, stick our hands into everything. Like America has to be a part of everything, even though we say we want to be America first, but we're not, right? Domestic surveillance, flock cameras, trying to keep track of you and I while the government can do and say whatever they want to. And the whole time the corporate state is running the empire of what America is. Okay? Think about those things. So what is it today? So that brings us to right now, right? When Sam Wilson took up the shield, he brought the modern dilemma to the surface. How do you represent a country whose system was actively working against you? How do you defend a system that is fundamentally broken? Because look at what America is today. Really look at what America is. Not what you think America is. What is America today? What does the world think of us? How does the news present us to the world? How does the news present us to ourselves, right? It's kind of very dark and gloomy and sad and depressing in almost a way that the news is all bad. Like 99% of the news is all bad about how it's white on black and there's always a tax or there's always this or they always need that or you're not doing enough or there's always something. It's never, oh, look at this person helping this person out, right? Look at how charitable this person is. Look at how wonderful the world is, right? The news is not like that, okay? So we no longer live under a simple industrial machine. We live under an algorithmic corporate technocracy. And there's 3 points that we want to talk about. The first one is surveillance pricing, right? You step into a grocery store or pull up a rental app and the dynamic AI algorithms change the price in real time based on your location or your battery percentage and your financial desperation. Market transparency is dead. Infrastructure enclosure. Public water tables and local power grids are being pushed to absolute failure to cool massive data centers, socializing the environmental and financial strain while privatizing tech profits. And the last one is institutional gridlock. We have a political framework where over 80% of popular public policy is completely ignored by lawmakers, proving that democratic input has been effectively decoupled from actual systemic execution. And so I see a lot of the last one, and I don't know if it's just because of the algorithm that's on my feed or within the feeds that I watch, but I see a lot of citizens locally that's going to their board members, that are showing up to city town hall, to the meetings, and they're saying, we don't like this. We need to change these ideas. We don't want flock cameras. We don't want data centers. We don't want all of the hustle and bustle and the noise and all of this stuff. And a lot of times they get removed. They get silenced. They get backs turned against them. They're ignored, right? And so the cameras are put up, the data centers are made, police do whatever police want to do, right? And our politicians are not backing what the society is asking them to do, okay? And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about institutional gridlock. And so the average citizen is caught in a trap, navigating skyrocketing costs, decaying social trust, and a corporate state that views human beings not as citizens with rights, but as a subscription with data points that can be monetized. There's money to be made off of you. Every decision that you make is money for them. Every friend, every like, everything that you do, watch, and are a part of is money for some machine to be made. Okay? And that's pretty sad. So the last thing I want to look at here is what could America be? The divergent horizon. Okay, where does that put us? Where does this end? In a recent comic arc, the United States of Captain America, Steve Rogers, and Sam Wilson travel across the country and discover something unexpected. And this is part of the comics that I thought was pretty amazing. They find the Captain's Network every day. They find the Captain's Network, and these consist of everyday working class citizens and local communities who made their own shields, right? And remember, the shield of Captain America is supposed to represent what America is. It's the red, white, and blue. It's the blood and the sacrifice and the honor and the friendship and the glory and the patriotism, and it's everything that America is supposed to stand for. That is the shield of Steve Rogers. That is the shield of Captain America. And for these local citizens to make their own shields, right? And by that, we're talking about a teenager protecting unhoused kids in the city, a rail worker organizing his own union, a local community leader defending farmland from corporate developers. None of them were waiting for federal authorization. None of them were waiting for a superhero or a government program to save them, because a lot of people are, right? They're waiting for a government to step in and save us, give us this, give us that, like give us all of this free stuff. It's not how it works. And so these guys, these people, these citizens, they were building defense networks right where they stood. And that is the choice sitting right on our very doorsteps today. And so we have a couple different paths that we can travel down. Path A is completely corporate enclosure. We allow the algorithmic pricing, the privatized infrastructure, and the corporate monopolies to finish their takeover. We accept a world where citizenship is reduced to a tiered monthly subscription, and freedom is just something that you're able to purchase off of the app, right? How much freedom do you want? Well, how much money do you got? Right? Because that's tomorrow. That's where we're headed, okay? The second path could be path B, and it's total systemic decoupling. It's the realization that top-down institutions are not coming to save us. It means rebuilding local economic power, mutual aid, sovereign energy, and genuine civic agency from the ground up, right? A local state. And we have, I thought there was three. I did have three of them. I took one off, sorry. So patriotism isn't waving a flag and defending a broken system just because it has a historical brand name attached to it. True patriotism is the willingness to confront the machinery, call out the exploitation, and force the system to finally match the paper promise that was made in 1776. Okay? So with that, we always end off with our critical thinking question. All right? And so every generation is sold a version of Steve Rogers, a noble myth to rally around while the machinery runs underneath. What is the modern myth being sold to you right now? And what real-world cost is it hiding? Because the machinery always lies. Okay? And with that, I hope you guys find something that's critical. I hope you find something to think about. Always ask questions, right? Always challenge authority. Okay? This has been episode 84 of Breaking the System. I hope you guys like what we produce. Like, subscribe, put those comments, whether you like it or not, right? We always try to read them, always try to comment. So you guys have a good day. God bless. Good night. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Yeah. It don't rot overnight, you know. It fades. Slow. Silent. Sweet. Like poison in the ink. Yeah, we build our walls out of words and pride. Now the cracks run deep where the truth once lied. Screens for temples, code for creed. We worship the lie that feeds our feet. Every echo shake, every thought rehearsed. History written in reverse. The prophets scroll, the prophets sell, and heaven's algorithms ring the bell.
Cold truth decays in the open air. Whispers drown in electric prayer. Life fades slow and we don't see.
The rock grows deep in our belief.